telling the story, as they put it, of the Lutheran Reformation together. Let me mention some of its key elements of how they tell the story, ways Lutherans and Catholics will give their earlier mutual polemics a common context. First, the authors point out, well, Reformation is a traditional Christian mandate. Neither Lutherans nor Catholics use the concept of Reformation to describe their 16th century aims. Indeed, Reformation only became a popular label for the whole age, the age of the Reformation in the 19th century. This does not make it a bad way to describe the era, but it does mean that we need to tell the story as a story of partly similar, partly different, and partly complementary, and indeed partly opposed reformations in the plural. How so? These Lutherans and Catholics agree, and of course what they're trying to do is persuade all the people that are going to be commemorating things in 2017. Okay? These Lutherans and Catholics agree that the 15th century, right prior to the time of the Reformation, was an especially pious time in the church, including the piety of monastic and mystical theology that influenced Luther's practice and theology of prayer. So you really can't understand Luther's theology of prayer and his practice without understanding this really great Christian piety of the late 15th century. Luther lived in these pious streams, the Lutherans and the Catholics agree, participating in both the piety and theological arguments of the 15th and 16th century. So starting here with the especially pious time at the end of the 15th century, instead of starting at the usual traditional point of how screwed up the church was, we've got to fix it, is there common ground? The breakthrough for Catholics, on the other hand, came with the thesis that Luther overcame within himself a Catholicism that was not fully Catholic. Luther's intent, and this is central to developing a Catholic and evangelical theology, was to reform the Catholic Church, not to divide it or create a protesting church. So the story they teach will not please, this story that they're telling will not please Lutherans, for whom Luther's reformers were heroes taking on an utterly corrupt church, nor will it please Catholics, for whom the protesters simply or primarily destroyed the unity of the body of Christ. So the Reformation is not only part of the story we can commemorate, but we can also celebrate. This is an issue. I mean, shall you celebrate? And then Catholics have had this, you celebrate the Reformation, divided the churches. But the first thing you've got to agree on before you agree on what you're celebrating is you've got to agree on what you're commemorating. Okay? So they've done that. They found some things that they can co-celebrate. But to give one final example, the authors take note of the way the 16th century Catholics